Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. That means, may peace and blessings of God be upon you. Hi, guys. My name is Shahadat, and today I'm going to do a little review of a very popular video that was published by uh, Dhruv Rathee. So, in this video, he claimed the video to be a scientific one. Unfortunately, I don't agree with him, and I think he has published some flawed information. He has published some factually incorrect information, basically, and he is misguiding tons and tons of people. If you look at the view of this particular video, he has got about 2.25 million subscribers, and this video was viewed at least 14 million times. So this is obviously it has got a big impact. Now, instead of arguing, instead of just trying to show him as a evil person or something like that, which is pretty common in the internet nowadays, we tend to blame each other. What I would rather do is I would try to speak to him, try to speak to Dhruv Rathee. Let's call him Dhruv from now on, and I'll try to show him where he is wrong. So, hello, Dhruva. This is Shahadat, as I said. Let me quickly show you why you should listen to me, or why I have the qualification actually to talk about the stuff that you have made the video about weight loss and calorie in, calorie out, and all these sort of things, because I have completed institutional training program on advanced ketogenic nutrition from the American Nutrition Association, as you can see in the screen. And I have done a little course on the metabolic theory of cancer as well, cancer metabolic disease. So hopefully you understand that I have got a little bit of background, a little bit of, I have studied a little bit on human health and nutrition. So now let's go back to your video and let's listen to what you have to say, and let's identify the flaws that you have made there, or the false claims that you have made there. I'm not saying you intentionally did it, but obviously you are still spreading lies, basically misinformation, and that shouldn't be accepted. I mean, I'm sure you don't want that either. But we know what we know, and based on what we know, we say what we say. So this is basically a try. This is my effort, basically, to try and put the record correct and guide you a little bit. And hopefully that will be beneficial for other people as well. So without further ado, let's start your video and see what you have to say.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, ये इंटरनेट पर सबसे ज्यादा सर्च किए जाने वाले सवालों में से एक है.
Now, before going to the question that he's talking about for other audience, because as you can hear, the language of the video is in Hindi, and I can fairly well understand Hindi, but I cannot speak very well Hindi, so I'm going to give my response in English. So, but just to make sure that I'm not actually misquoting him, I've kept the subtitles on, so you can see. Luckily, he has actually published an English subtitle of what he is saying in the video, so you can follow the subtitle to see whether I'm misquoting him or not understanding his point properly. And if I make a mistake, please feel free to leave a comment highlighting that point and try to correct me. I'm a human being, not flawless, you know. So yeah, let's go forward with that.
हाउ टू लूज वेट लॉस कैसे किया जाए, और शायद से दुनिया की सबसे पॉपुलर न्यू ईयर रेजोल्यूशन भी यही है, वेट लॉस. जैसे एक सवाल पर कितने लाखों यूट्यूब वीडियोस बनाए गए हैं, कितने हजारों आर्टिकल्स लिखे गए हैं, और कितनी ही अफवाहें फैलाई गई हैं. कोई कहता है मैगी खाओ बॉडी बनाओ, कोई कहता है लो कार्ब डाइट पर जाओ, कोई कहता है लो फैट डाइट पर जाओ, कोई अपने फर्जी प्रोडक्ट्स बेचता है. एक पूरी की पूरी इंडस्ट्री खड़ी हो चुकी है इस वेट लॉस पर. आज के वीडियो में आइए इस कॉन्सेप्ट को एक साइंटिफिक तरीके से समझते हैं. क्या यहाँ सच है, क्या मिथ है, वेट लूज करने के लिए आपको क्या खाना चाहिए, क्या नहीं खाना चाहिए, और कौन सी डाइट यहाँ पर बेस्ट डाइट है. आइए जानते हैं.
The Wonder 10-Day Diet.
So because he basically is presenting this video as a scientific um, presentation of the idea of how to lose weight. That's why I'm basically having to kind of like make this review and try to correct him, because the information that he presented, it appears to be scientific, but it actually is not. So yeah, let's go forward.
Burn away fat while you sleep.
Diet that can work when nothing else will.
The popular paleo diet.
Ketogenic or keto.
Brand new South Beach diet.
Promising new weight loss drug.
And other groundbreaking weight loss drugs could soon be available in pill form.
वेट लॉस के पीछे का लॉजिक बड़ा सिंपल है दोस्तों। इमेजिन करो यहाँ आपका बैंक अकाउंट है, जितने पैसे आप कमाते हो वो आपके बैंक अकाउंट में जाकर इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं, जितने पैसे आप खर्च करते हो वो आपके बैंक अकाउंट से जाते हैं। तो अगर आपको अपना बैंक बैलेंस बढ़ाना है, उसके लिए या तो आपको अपनी कमाई को बढ़ाना होगा या फिर अपने खर्चे को कम करना होगा। सिमिलरली हमारी बॉडी का एक कैलोरी बैंक है, जितनी कैलोरीज आप खाते हो वो जाकर यहां इकट्ठी हो जाती है, और जितनी आप खर्च करते हो उतनी ही स्टोरेज यहां पर कम हो जाती है। ये कैलोरी बैंक यहां पर हमारी बॉडी है। कैलोरीज को स्टोर करने के लिए उन्हें ज्यादातर टाइम फैट में कन्वर्ट करके बॉडी के द्वारा रखा जाता है, जिससे हमारा वजन बढ़ता है। तो आपको अगर वजन कम करना है, या तो अपने कैलोरी का इनटेक कम करो या फिर उन्हें ज्यादा खर्च करो। कैलोरीज खर्च करने को
So far he is talking about the calorie in, calorie out model, the concept that basically suggests that if you want to lose weight, you have to reduce the consumption of calories and spend more, burn more calories, and that way you will lose weight. Yes, so he was talking about the calorie in, calorie out idea. Now, calorie is an unit of is the unit of energy, heat basically. I mean, let's not use the word energy, because then it gets even more confused, because there are different kinds of energy and their units are different. But this is basically the unit of heat. So calories, I mean, when we eat, we actually don't eat heat, we eat food. So depending on what food we eat, the body will do different things. Now, he tried to, or you, Rathi, Dhruv, you tried to compare the body as a bank. And this analogy is actually completely flawed. And probably because you think your body as a bank, that's why you don't really understand where you're making the mistake. Let me explain. In a bank, you go and you deposit your money, and it goes into your account, and it sits there. If you don't take the money out, it stays there without any change. It stays there for days and months and years without getting changed. If you add some more, the balance, account balance goes up. If you spend some, take out some money, it goes down. But our body is not like that. Our body is slightly different. If you even if you don't do anything actively, your body will still consume some of the stuff that you have given in. So it is not really like a bank. But because you have used the analogy of a bank, I could probably, I mean, I can come up with a similar idea, and probably you will understand where the problem is. See, we eat different kinds of foods, carbohydrates and fats and proteins, vitamins and minerals, all these things. Now, if you want to compare your body like a bank, then you can compare it to a bank that operates in multi-currency. So it is there to take in different kinds of currencies. I mean, on this particular example, obviously, we have to ignore the fact that the bank will eat up some of the food that you are depositing in the bank, right? So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. But even if we ignore that fact, let's just think about a multi-currency bank. It can take pounds, pound sterlings, it can take dollars, and it can take rupees, it can take taka, things like those. So depending on what sort of currency you are depositing, you have to go to a different counter. Okay, the representative that you have to speak to will be a different person depending on which currency you are going to deposit into your account. If you go to what do you call, say, dollar account, the person, the agent in the dollar account counter, they will deal with the dollar in a particular way. The pound currency dealer may not deal with it exactly in the same way. They may do it differently. And the other one, the rupee currency account manager, probably, or agent, he will probably do things completely in a different way. Now, what happens is, instead of thinking of food as calories, it makes more sense to think about it as different stuff. I mean, they are realistically, literally different things, right? For example, protein is used to build our body. So even though when we talk about protein, you will probably say this much meat or fish or some other protein source food has got this much calorie. But the problem is, once we eat that protein, the protein is actually not burned for energy. I mean, you explain the idea that when calories are burned or used to generate energy, that is called burning calories. Now, when we eat protein, protein doesn't get burnt. Protein is used to build our body. So the concept of energy burning doesn't really apply to protein. Well, to digest protein, you need to spend calories because that's a calorie intensive process. So you need calories to burn or to break down protein to amino acids so that your body can absorb them and then use them to do things to build your body. So that's protein. Now, if we talk about fat, the fat is dealt with in a different way. Now, the bank account analogy that I was talking about, in this idea, if your body is a bank, then you go and store protein or give protein to this bank. And the person who deals with protein, he takes it in and he goes around your body and puts it in different bits. And the process of actually giving the protein to this agent, that is an expensive process. You need to spend some calories to do that. Okay, so then once these calories are spent a little bit, the thermic effect of calories, as you say, that goes and gets stored in different parts of our body to actually build the body rather than burning it for energy. Now, if there is too much protein, yes, that agent will then give it to another agent so that it can be converted. They will use a converter of protein to become sugar. The protein, extra protein, will get converted to sugar, and that sugar will then be passed to the other agent who deals with sugar. Okay, so the protein person deals with protein in this way. So even if you eat protein, a huge calorie load of protein, you are actually not burning it. You are not actually storing it in the sense that you are adding fat. You are not actually burning or storing it in that sense. It is getting added to your body, and that will have an impact on your weight. Because if you have more muscles, you will be heavier. If you are taller, you have got strong bones, you will be a little bit heavier. But if you're a muscular person, we don't worry about that. I mean, if a really muscular person who is, in terms of BMI calculation, whose BMI is through the roof, we don't worry about that person because his body is not full of fat. His body is full of muscle. So having muscle is not a problem. Having too much fat is a problem. So now let's focus on the fat agent. What that agent does, you take the fat, you eat, and you give it to the agent. And interestingly, this agent actually immediately starts burning the fat. It starts burning the fat and it doesn't want to store the fat at all. This agent operates in this weird, interesting way. The third agent is the sugar agent. You eat any carbohydrate, and that goes to the sugar agent, because after digestion, the sugar gets converted to glucose, and the glucose is a kind of sugar. So the sugar goes to now this third agent, and this agent, what he does is he stores a little bit of sugar in our liver as glycogen, and then he stores a little bit more in our muscles, because muscles have got little furnaces where sugar can be burnt to produce energy. So this agent puts this in there, but then given given the amount of carbohydrate food we eat nowadays, he realizes that it's too much sugar, and he doesn't have any other place to store it. Then what he does is he he calls in a group of it's basically a team of converters. And what these converters do is they convert this sugar, extra sugar, to fat and then store it. Remember, the fat that you eat, if you don't eat carbohydrate with that, that fat is going to go to the burning in the furnace immediately. But if you eat too much sugar, then this converting process gets started, which is operated by this hormone called insulin. The insulin does this conversion and causes the extra sugar to get stored in different parts of your body as extra fat. The other thing this insulin thing does is it stops the fat burning guy burning any fat. So then what happens is if you eat carbohydrate, you add weight to your body. If you eat fat only, if you eat fat only, you actually don't store that fat kind of like at all, because um, it is kind of like controlled by our body in terms of how much fat you can have in one go. If you have too much, you will start throwing up. There are mechanisms in our body to deal with that. And a similar kind of mechanism is present for our protein consumption as well. There is no controller for the carbohydrate consumption. So as a result, you get different things. Now, let's leave the bank analogy on aside. Obviously, that's not really a correct analogy. Let's just uh, get to how things happen in the body. When we eat food, we eat different kinds of food, and um, each of these food will trigger some hormone in our body. Now, if we just think about the storage hormone, the energy storage hormone, then that is insulin. So when we eat protein, the insulin is raised. When we eat carbohydrate, the insulin is raised a little bit more than, well, actually not a little bit, it's quite a bit more than the level of insulin that is secreted when you eat protein. So the third, when you eat fat on its own, the insulin barely moves. So if a person takes in just pure fat, ghee, or butter, if you just swallow a block of butter, then you get a ton of calorie, fat, but because the insulin is not elevated, insulin is not raised, the body starts burning this fat immediately, and it is not stored anywhere. Now, how do I prove to you that this is the process? This is insulin actually does this. Well, a simple example is the type 1 diabetics. Type 1 diabetic people, if you don't give them insulin from outside, they cannot store any energy at all. And as a result, they die. They keep on losing weight, and then once all their muscles and everything is destroyed, they are used up basically, they die. And the solution to that problem is if you give them insulin, then whatever they eat, a portion of that gets stored in the body, and that's how they actually survive. So there is a very obvious example that insulin does this thing. Now, experimenting on these type 1 diabetic patients, the scientists actually found another interesting fact, which is when we have elevated insulin in our blood, our metabolic rate actually goes down because type 1 diabetics who do not have any insulin at all in their blood because their pancreas is destroyed, damaged, it cannot produce insulin. For them, they measured and found that their metabolic rate is about 30% higher than a normal person. And analyzing that, they realized that if you give a person insulin, immediately their metabolic rate goes down. So, if you eat carbohydrates, that will raise your blood sugar level. That will trigger the release of insulin hormone. Insulin hormone will come and try to store everything. At the same time, it will slow down the metabolic rate of your body. So that means you will not burn as much calories as you would have if you didn't have the insulin in the body. So and I'm sure you will understand that because you understand that hormones play an important role in our body. In your video, you did talk about how when we do things wrong, hormones suddenly kick in and do try to save us. The same thing is true when we eat food. Carbohydrate will trigger hormone insulin. Insulin will try to store everything, and that's why if you eat carbohydrate and fat together, that is a disaster because the fat then gets stored because there is insulin. Insulin is trying to store everything, and insulin stops fat burning. So what happens is the fat that you had gets stored. Also, the carbohydrate that you ate, that gets stored as well. So having a biryani is a bad idea because carbohydrate, fat, and protein, everything is mixed in one meal there. That is a bad idea. Well, once in a while, it's so tasty. So, yeah, people do that. But if you do it regularly, you will be putting yourself in trouble. So, I hope you understand that insulin plays a very important role in weight management. Now, if we don't eat the food that raises insulin, then what happens is the body keeps on burning fat. The body kind of like keeps on running on fat. And that happens every day in our body when we don't eat anything overnight. In the morning, our body, the insulin is low, and our body keeps on burning fat to produce energy so that we can do our work and stuff. And that's how it works. So it's not nothing like scary. Now, I think I've just given you the baseline information of how our body works when we eat food. So let's continue with your video and progress a little bit more.
को कैलोरीज बर्न करना कहा जाता है। ये कैलोरीज बर्न कैसे होती हैं इसकी बात आगे करते हैं, लेकिन उससे पहले जानते हैं कि कैलोरीज आपकी बॉडी के अंदर आती कैसे हैं। जितना भी खाना आप खाते हो, जितनी भी ड्रिंक्स आप पीते हो पानी को छोड़कर, उन सब के अंदर एनर्जी होती है कैलोरीज।
I knew I was underwater.
Advertisements.
I just didn't realize I was this underwater.
के फॉर्म में न्यूट्रिशनल साइंस में कैलोरी की डेफिनेशन ही है कि ये एक यूनिट ऑफ एनर्जी है।
ये एक यूनिट ऑफ एनर्जी है, or which basically means it's a unit of energy. And you are eating food. Food is, you're not eating energy. You're not eating, well, it's not exactly energy even, it's heat energy. Right. So you are not eating that. So why talk about calorie when you are not eating calorie? There is no device inside our body to measure calorie.
तो जो कुछ खाना पानी आप कंज्यूम कर रहे हो वहां से कैलोरीज आपकी बॉडी के अंदर आ रही हैं। तो अब क्योंकि कैलोरीज एनर्जी का ही एक फॉर्म है, जिन जिन चीजों में बॉडी को एनर्जी लगती है उन चीजों में कैलोरी बर्न होती है।
Before going any further, let's talk about this thing a little bit as well. Each food comes with calories, right? That's what you say. Okay. And we know that fat contains more calories per gram. So 1 gram of fat will have around 9 calories, whereas 1 gram of carbohydrate will contain 4 calories, right? So if I want to say get 10 calories, what should I eat? 1 gram of protein, a little bit more than 1 gram of protein will give me 10 calories. And I have to have at least 2.5 grams of carbohydrate to get the same calorie. 10 calories, right? Which one is heavier? Because weight, we are talking about weight, right? Which one is heavier? The fat, 10 calories, is 1 gram, and 10 calories carbohydrate is 2.5 grams. Hope you see that if you eat fat, if you stick to your calories idea concept, having actually fat instead of carbohydrate is actually a better idea, because then you are eating less stuff that is that has weight. You are eating less stuff to feed your body with the calories necessary. So that way it makes sense to eat the lighter stuff so that your weight doesn't go up, right? And the other thing you need to remember is weight is not only fat. In our body, weight is composed of fat, bones, muscles, and water. Interestingly, when insulin is elevated, it blocks or stops our kidneys excreting salt. So they insulin basically keeps or tries to hold on to salt in our body. When that happens, the salt obviously retains water. That means your body gets swelled up with water. So if you don't eat carbohydrates, your insulin comes down. It is not elevated. So there is no one in the kidney blocking the salts from getting excreted. That means you excrete a lot of salt and water follows. And the extra water that you had in your body, which was quite heavy, that goes down. That's why people who do ketogenic diet or even low carbohydrate diet, forget about ketogenic diet because that's kind of like an extreme. Many people will not be interested or not be comfortable doing that. But even if you just do low carb diet, or even forget about low carb diet, even if you just restrict the number of times you eat every day, your body will actually excrete more salt and more water. So your weight will come down. You need to remember all these things when you talk about weight, because otherwise you will get confused and confuse other people, which you have done in this particular video actually, to be frank.
कैलोरीज बर्न करने के लिए सबसे ऑब्वियस चीज लोगों के दिमाग में आती है एक्सरसाइज करना, जो कि बात सच है, लेकिन बॉडी के हर प्रोसेस
Obviously, you are claiming that it's true that to lose weight, you have to do exercise. If you say you have to exercise, there is a problem. Scientifically, that's not true. There are ways to actually lose weight without exercising. So, if you can do exercise, well and good. Exercise is actually really beneficial for our health, so we should try and do exercise. But the reality is there are some people who are type 2 diabetic and they are obese, massively overweight. For them, trying to do exercise is actually quite risky. They may get injured, they may damage their joints. So for them, it's a good idea not to do exercise, rather try to control or basically lose weight, just controlling the food that they are eating. So if you can do that, first lose your weight and then you become stronger and you go and do exercise. And as I said, if you get rid of the carbohydrates from your food, your metabolic rate goes up. What does that mean? Basically, you become stronger. If you are stronger, what happens? You feel energetic, you feel adventurous, you want to go out, and you want to run, you want to walk and do the things that are difficult. But if that's not the case, if your insulin is always elevated and your metabolic rate is low, you don't feel, your body doesn't produce the as much energy. And that means you will not be interested to take part in anything which is physically challenging. So many people, probably you will say as well that people are heavy or overweight because they're lazy, they're not exercising. And Professor Dr. Robert Lustig, who is a medical doctor, and he has got few other qualifications, and he was a professor of the UCSF, and he says this concept that you are fat because you're lazy is utterly rubbish. And if you stick to this calorie in, calorie out concept, then you will eventually end up blaming people who cannot control their weight and call them lazy, which is not true. The problem is giving them certain foods, especially processed carbohydrate foods, we are reducing their metabolic rate. And because they add different kind of chemicals in the foods to make them addictive, and these guys cannot stop eating. Sugar on its own is very addictive. Even it's more addictive than cocaine. So people cannot resist. People cannot stop themselves, cannot control, and they keep on consuming and end up being fat. So they are not willingly doing it. It is they are being forced to do it, right? So you need to understand that as well. Okay, let's progress.
इसमें एनर्जी की जरूरत होती है तो हर चीज में कैलोरीज बर्न होती हैं। आपके दिल को धड़कने के लिए, लंग्स को सांस लेने के लिए, पेट को खाना डाइजेस्ट करने के लिए भी एनर्जी की जरूरत होती है। इसी रीजन से रात को सोते सोते भी आपकी कैलोरीज बर्न होती हैं।
See, now you should probably agree with me that the bank analogy doesn't work, right? In the bank, if you put money, it stays there without any change. But in our case, in our body, the energy, that the food that you eat, the energy that is produced from the food gets burnt, even if you don't do anything. So if this is true, what you're saying is true, then there should be ways to control your weight just by manipulating this.
सही सुना आपने। ऑन एवरेज 8 घंटे की नींद में एक आम इंसान करीब 400 कैलोरीज बर्न करता है, और ये सारी कैलोरीज जो बॉडी को सिर्फ जिंदा रखने के लिए बर्न हो रही हैं, इसे हम बेसल मेटाबॉलिक रेट कहते हैं, BMR। हर इंसान का बेसल मेटाबॉलिक रेट अलग अलग होता है, डिपेंड करता है आपकी हाइट कितनी है, वेट कितना है, मसल मास कितना है आप में, और बहुत सारे अलग अलग फैक्टर्स होते हैं। एक ऑनलाइन ये कैलकुलेटर है जिसके जरिए आप कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं अपना BMR। इसका लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में है नीचे। मेरे लिए फॉर एग्जांपल मैं बताऊं तो मेरी एज 28 साल है, हाइट 186 सेंटीमीटर, 80 किलो वजन, तो BMR मेरा हुआ 1828 कैलोरीज प्रतिदिन। तो इतनी कैलोरीज तो मैं हर दिन बर्न करूंगा बिना कुछ करे। अब इस
Now, before going any further, let me talk about one little concept I just thought about. Well, in fact, no. Let's talk about that later.
इसके अलावा मैंने आपको बताया कि खाना खाने से बॉडी को कैलोरीज मिलती हैं, लेकिन क्या आप जानते हैं, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन आप क्या खाना खा रहे हैं, आपका खाना कैलोरीज बर्न भी कर सकता है। यहां कॉन्सेप्ट आता है थर्मिक इफेक्ट ऑफ फूड का, शॉर्ट में कहा जाए TEF। लॉजिक बड़ा सिंपल है, जब आप खाना खाते हो तो आपकी बॉडी को उस खाने को डाइजेस्ट करना होता है, खाने से न्यूट्रिएंट्स को एब्जॉर्ब करना होता है, और फिर खाने को स्टोर करना होता है। इन सारे प्रोसेसेस में बॉडी एनर्जी खर्च करती है, कैलोरीज खर्च होती हैं। तो कुछ चीजों का बहुत कम थर्मिक इफेक्ट होता है, जैसे कि फैट्स हो गए हमारे, ऑयल हो गया, मैदा हो गया, बटर हो गया। हमारी बॉडी बड़ी आसानी से इन चीजों को डाइजेस्ट कर लेती है, ऑलमोस्ट कोई कैलोरी बर्न करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती। दूसरी तरफ
But remember, the fat, if you just consume it on its own, it doesn't get stored in our body because the insulin hormone is not elevated, doesn't get raised, which basically allows our body to run on fat. That means the fat that you had will straight away go into producing energy and get spent.
जो होल ग्रेन्स होते हैं, प्रोटीन रिच खाना होता है, डेयरी हो गए, अंडे हो गए, और हाई फाइबर सब्जियां और फल, पालक, ब्रोकली, इन सब का बहुत हाई थर्मिक इफेक्ट होता है। हमारे
Meat, you completely ignored meat. Why? Oh, well, that probably is because Dhruv Rathee probably is a Hindu person, and there is a tendency among Hindus to avoid animal food because in Hinduism, and because of that, I guess in India, in Indian culture now, people think plant foods are better. So some people try to avoid animal food altogether. So I mean, I found it quite interesting that he don't want to even talk about meat. because meat is the best source of protein. So he talked about the other stuff, eggs and dairy, but not meat. Interesting.
हमारी बॉडी को बहुत कैलोरीज बर्न करनी पड़ती हैं इन खानों को डाइजेस्ट करने के लिए, इसलिए इस टाइप का खाना खाकर वेट गेन करना मुश्किल हो जाता है.
Please remember, not all food that we eat gets burnt, because some food gets stored in our body to build the body muscles. Protein gets used in that way. Yeah, we spend some calories to take these amino acids in, or digest the protein, and then take the amino acids in and put them in the right places to do the right stuff. But they are not contributing in our production of energy, right? So that's something we need
अब
to
आप सोचोगे
remember.
कि क्या इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि कुछ प्रकार का खाना यहाँ पर नेगेटिव कैलोरी भी हो सकता है, कि जितनी कैलोरीज उस खाने में अवेलेबल है उससे ज्यादा कैलोरीज बॉडी बर्न कर रही है उस खाने को कंज्यूम करने में. ये चीज एक मिथ है दोस्तों. ऐसा होने के लिए किसी भी खाने का जो थर्मिक इफेक्ट है वो 100% से ज्यादा होना चाहिए, जो कि इम्पॉसिबल है. ऐसा होता नहीं है. जो हाईएस्ट थर्मिक इफेक्ट पॉसिबल है वो 30% के अराउंड होता है, जो कि प्रोटीन्स का होता है आमतौर पर. इसका मतलब है कि अगर आप 100 कैलोरी प्रोटीन खा रहे हो, 30 कैलोरीज तो खर्च हो जा रही हैं उस प्रोटीन को डाइजेस्ट करने में, और सिर्फ 70 कैलोरीज आपकी बॉडी एक्चुअली में गेन कर रही है. अब ज्यादा.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an
Advert
all-in-one
again.
productivity software where you can manage everything and anything.
यहाँ मैथ्स में जाने.
Now, at this point, this is important to remember that the calories he is referring to in the protein, those are not calories you are getting at all, really. Because those calories, those proteins, they're not going to get burnt. They're going to get stored in your body to produce, to actually build and maintain your muscles, your structure. So talking about protein as calories is frankly foolish.
की जरूरत नहीं है. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि हर खाने का थर्मिक इफेक्ट निकालो उसे खाने से पहले. बस मैं आपको बेसिक आइडिया देना चाह रहा था कि आप समझ पाओ कि इस तरीके का कॉन्सेप्ट भी एग्जिस्ट करता है. अब
Now, the other thing you need to remember about this calorie in, calorie out idea is that you cannot actually measure how much calorie is in a particular food at all accurately. I mean, unless you are a PhD scientist and every time before eating, you are running some really complicated experiments to find out exactly how many calories are there in this particular food today, and then do the calculations. And in most of the times, what happens is the food that we get from the nature, they vary. I mean, same food picked up on 2 different days from the same field probably will have different things in them. So the caloric value will vary. And Professor Bert Kay, he says that it is just assumed that the calorie value that is listed in the food labels, they're 20% plus and minus accurate. 20% plus minus. So that means if you're reading it 100 calories, it can actually be 80 calories, or it can be 120 calories. There is no way for you to know exactly what calorie it is. So if you are on a particular day eating food, thinking that you were eating 100 calories from all these foods, but they were 20% over. So you are ending up eating 120 calories. That means all your calculations are completely off. And trying to live a normal human life, worrying about calories in this kind of way, will be absolutely miserable. I mean, are you going to enjoy your food, or just be completely overwhelmed going through the equations and try to calculate exactly how much calorie there is in this particular piece of meat that I'm going to eat? Craziness, isn't it? Far better idea is to eat until you are full, until your hunger is gone. And if you eat, that's another thing you need to remember. I actually mentioned it in a little bit earlier, the satiating effect of food. So protein and fat, they have satiating effect. If you eat protein, there is a thing called peptide YY gets released in our gut, and that basically goes and tells the brain how much protein we have eaten. So if the protein consumption is enough for the day, the brain then goes, that's enough, we don't need any more. So it tries to stop us from eating any more protein. The same is true for fat. There is a hormone that gets released. Um, I've just lost the name of the protein. So, hormone. So if you eat fat, that hormone keeps on releasing, and that goes and tells the brain that I have got enough fat for the day. And when that happens, you will not be able to eat any more. If you try to force eat, you will feel like throwing up. You will feel like vomiting. That's basically our body's way of defending against overconsumption of these foods. Interestingly, there is no such mechanism for carbohydrates. That's why we can just keep on eating carbohydrates. We can eat a ton of carbohydrate, the same amount of meat. And I mean, if you like take a plate full of meat and a plate full of rice, you will be able to, I mean, the same weight, you will be able to finish that rice and still ask for more. Whereas if you eat the plate full of meat, same weight, then you will feel like, oh my God, I cannot even look at meat. That's how our body kind of protects against overconsumption. There are two scientists in Australia. They came up with this concept, and they use a very simple example to illustrate the point. They say, look at the cows, the elephants, all the animals that live on grass. Their food contains very little protein, and they keep on eating all day long. Whereas the lion or all the carnivore animals, they eat in one go quite a bit of meat, and then they go to sleep. Because their body's need for protein has been met, they don't feel hungry anymore. So they go and sleep. That's their life. Whereas the ruminant animals, the animals living on grass, they keep on eating and eating. And interestingly, the lion is lean and thin, whereas these cows and elephants, they're really fat, right? Full of fat all around their body. So that gives a clue.
अब बात करते हैं वेट लॉस की। बहुत से लोगों को ये सुनकर लगेगा कि एक्सरसाइज करने की क्या जरूरत, बॉडी का जो बेसल मेटाबॉलिक रेट है बस उससे कम कैलोरीज खा लो तो आपका वेट लॉस वैसे ही हो जाएगा। थियोरेटिकली ये चीज सही है, लेकिन प्रैक्टिकली काफी खतरनाक है। बिना एक्सरसाइज किए बीएमआर से कम खाने का मतलब है कि आपकी बॉडी का हार्मोनल बैलेंस बिगड़ सकता है।
That's correct. He's actually right on this particular point. Dhruv, you have expressed correct information on this particular section of your video. Yes, if you try to eat less than your BMR, what happens is initially you lose a little bit of weight, but then your body figures out that enough supply is not coming. And then the body changes the spending. So, you know, that bank account idea, this is where that falls apart. If the bank can decide how much it is going to spend based on how much you put in, then you are screwed, because you thought it's you who decide how much you are going to spend. But in this particular example, you are not the controller. The bank is. Your body is. The body will change your hormonal profile, metabolic rate will go down, and then you will end up feeling terrible because metabolic rate goes down, means you're not producing enough energy. At the same time, your weight will keep on increasing. And this has already been tested, and it was proved that that's exactly how our body works. So losing weight, just reducing your food below your BMR is not a good idea. It's a terrible idea, in fact.
आपको ज्यादा थकान होगी, आप ज्यादा इरिटेबल बन जाओगे, पढ़ाई और काम में ध्यान लगाना आपके लिए बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा। क्योंकि पता है कौन सा बॉडी पार्ट सबसे ज्यादा कैलोरीज कंज्यूम करता है ह्यूमन बॉडी में? हमारा दिमाग। ह्यूमन बॉडी की एनर्जी यूजेज का ऑलमोस्ट 20% ह्यूमन ब्रेन कंज्यूम करता है। बॉडी के लिए सेल्फ कंट्रोल करना भी मुश्किल हो जाता है। बहुत से लोगों के साथ ऐसा होता है कि खाना कम कर देंगे, कमजोर पड़ जाएंगे, मूड उनका बुरी तरीके से खराब हो जाएगा, कुछ टाइम के लिए डाइटिंग पे जाएंगे, लेकिन उसके एकदम बाद बिंज करने लग जाएंगे और उनकी डाइट फेल रहेगी। इसलिए हमारा मकसद यहां पर वेट लॉस नहीं बल्कि हेल्दी वेट लॉस होना चाहिए, और हेल्दी वेट लॉस के लिए एक्सरसाइज बहुत जरूरी है।
No, exercise is not very important for healthy weight loss. You can use your food and the hormonal effect of your food. If you understand how your food affects your hormones, then you can healthily lose weight without doing any kind of exercise at all. I mean, obviously, as a normal person, you will be moving around a little bit anyway. Nobody is going to sit around for the whole time for months. So, yeah, but you don't intentionally need to go and spend or burn calories, as Dhruv said, to actually lose weight.
इनफैक्ट 4 मेन चीजें बहुत जरूरी हैं: डाइट कंट्रोल, एक्सरसाइज, प्रॉपर स्लीप और स्ट्रेस फ्री रखना अपने आप को। आखिरी 2 पॉइंट्स काफी ऑब्वियस हैं, लेकिन अगर आपको इनमें प्रॉब्लम हो रही है अपने आप को स्ट्रेस फ्री रखने में और अपनी 8 घंटे की नींद रोज पूरी करने में, तो इसका मतलब है कि आप अपना टाइम सही से मैनेज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। और
Now, why does sleep or the stress level affect our weight? You need to understand that point, and that will be relevant further down in the discussion. Because, what's the time now? Let me quickly have a look at the time as well, because I've been going on for quite a while, right? So, what happens is, what was I talking about? I looked at the watch and then I forgot. Let me roll back a little bit.
रोज पूरी करने में, तो इसका मतलब है कि आप अपना टाइम सही से मैनेज नहीं कर पा।
Yes, I was talking about sleep and hormonal or stress, how that affects our weight. When you don't sleep properly, it has they basically, the scientists, they experimented and found that when you don't have a good night, good sleep overnight, what happens is your body raises the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, all these hormones, and they cause our liver to produce sugar, glucose. So that's the important bit. Our liver can produce glucose when necessary. So the body does that. So that means there is extra glucose in the body. And if the glucose is elevated in the blood, you get insulin, and the insulin then tries to store this glucose as weight again. And at the same time, it blocks the excretion of salt through your kidneys. That means you retain more water and you feel heavier. You become heavier. And the same thing is true for stress. When we are stressed, our cortisol hormone is released, and the same thing happens again. Elevated cortisol means the liver will immediately produce glucose. This is a evolutionary adaptation, or a evolutionary technique, really. When, say, if you are facing a tiger or a bear or something like that, and now you've got two choices. Back in the days when there was no cities like ours, those people had only two choices, our ancestors. You can either run as fast as you can, or if the tiger is too close, you can try and fight. And for both of these activities, you need a ton of energy. And how can you get a quick source of energy? That's glucose. So when as soon as we face a situation like this, immediately our body produces this cortisol hormone, which goes and tells the liver that I need glucose now. And immediately the body produces, the liver produces glucose, gives it in the blood, our muscles get the glucose, and then we are ready to run. Unfortunately, in our modern times, we are getting these stresses. We get the bill through the letterbox and look at the bill. I have to pay so much money. And immediately your cortisol is elevated and your body is going into that mode. But you are not running or you're not fighting. So the extra energy that was produced, then that gets stored back. Obviously, it was taken out from your body, so it goes back. So in terms of that, it is not adding any extra weight. But because the insulin hormone gets elevated, now it holds on to more water. It makes you thirsty. You drink water, it gets retained, and your weight goes up.
पा रहे हैं। और ऐसे में आपको जरूरत है अपनी जिंदगी में सही टाइम मैनेजमेंट की। यही चीज आपको सिखाने के लिए मैंने एक पूरा कोर्स बनाया है टाइम मैनेजमेंट पर। उनका मैं अपनी ये वीडियोस पर आप रिव्यू जबरदस्त 40 ज्वाइन करने का लिंक नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन और पिन कमेंट में मिल जाएगा, नहीं तो आप इस क्यूआर कोड को भी इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में है। अब टॉपिक पर वापस आते हैं और डाइट कंट्रोल के पॉइंट को डिटेल में समझते हैं। कभी आपको ऐसी फीलिंग आई है दोस्तों कि आपने पूरा का पूरा एक चॉकलेट बार खा लिया लेकिन फिर भी आपको भूख लगे जा रही है? कई चीजों को खाने के बाद ऐसा लगता है कि पेट भरा नहीं है। इसके पीछे कारण है सेटाइटी इंडेक्स। बात कुछ ऐसी है कि कुछ टाइप का खाना ऐसा होता है जिसे खाकर पेट ज्यादा भरा हुआ फील करता है और कुछ टाइप का खाना ऐसा नहीं होता।
Now, that's correct. Satiety index is a observed phenomena, so that is correct. But there is another thing that we need to remember. When we eat these foods, as I said, depending on what you eat, your insulin will get elevated. Now, for some of us, or in fact, actually, a lot of us, what happens is our body it becomes insulin resistant and it produces more insulin compared to a normal human being, normal healthy human being of the same size, same weight, not same weight probably, same age. So our body basically produces more insulin. Now, the job of insulin is to take sugar out from the blood and store it in our body as fat or glycogen. So once it does that, our body, our sugar becomes sugar free, not exactly free, it goes to the baseline basically. So, and then everything starts working fine. But for a person who is insulin resistant, if he eats a carbohydrate, a cookie or something like that, in his case, the insulin is raised quite a bit higher compared to a few times higher than a normal healthy human being. So what happens is this extra insulin, it keeps on drawing out sugar from the blood, and the blood level actually goes below the normal healthy range that you need to have all the time. The 1 teaspoon of sugar that you need to have in your blood as an adult, your total sugar level goes to, like, say, 3/4 of a spoon. So at this point, our brain senses that there is low blood sugar, and immediately it raises or releases another hormone called ghrelin, which is driving our hunger. So sugar low, the brain goes, I need energy. So immediately releases the hunger hormone, and it makes you hungry. That's why if you eat carbohydrate food in the morning, by 11 o'clock, 11:30, you feel terribly hungry. But if you don't eat, or if you eat, say, a couple of eggs in the morning, then this thing doesn't happen. Why? Because when you eat eggs, just pure protein and fat, or if you don't eat anything, what happens is your insulin level stays relatively normal. It doesn't spike. So when it doesn't spike, it doesn't take out the sugar from your blood. It doesn't take too much sugar from your blood. As a result, your brain feels, oh, I've got a ton of energy available, so I don't need to produce the ghrelin hormone to try and get some more food. So that's how you don't feel hungry anymore. So there are two things. One is based on this this concept of satiety index that he was showing. If you eat that food, you feel full. That's for now. But you need to worry about what is going to happen after 2 hours, because within 2 hours, your body is going to process this food that you have just ate. And then either your body will be either normal blood sugar, or reduced blood sugar. If it dips, the blood sugar level dips, your body is then going to produce ghrelin to raise the insulin level. That is going to be a problem, because then you will feel like you will be forced to eat again and you will be in trouble.
1995 में कुछ रिसर्चर्स ने 240 कैलोरी की सर्विंग टेस्ट करी 38 अलग अलग प्रकार के खानों की। इन्होंने पाया कि बॉइल्ड पोटेटोस, आलूओं का सबसे ज्यादा सेटाइटी इंडेक्स होता है। 323 का स्कोर दिया गया था आलू को। कुछ और चीजें हैं जैसे कि पल्सेस, हाई फाइबर फूड्स, लो फैट डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स, अंडे, नट्स, इन चीजों का भी ये इंडेक्स काफी ज्यादा हाई होता है। इसका
The food that contains most protein and fat, because normally fat and protein always comes together in natural foods, like meat always comes with fat, eggs always come with protein and fat together. So if you eat something like that, that will give you the highest satiety, and that will keep your satiety for the longest. If you eat the carbohydrates, you will shoot yourself in the foot, basically.
का मतलब ये है कि फॉर द सेम अमाउंट ऑफ कैलोरीज अगर आप हाई सेटाइटी वाले फूड आइटम्स खाओगे तो आपका पेट ज्यादा भरा हुआ फील होगा, आपको भूख कम लगेगी, इवन दो नंबर ऑफ कैलोरीज सेम है। अब इसे सुनकर कुछ लोग कहेंगे कि चलो फिर मैं पूरे दिन ब्रेकफास्ट लंच डिनर में सिर्फ बॉइल्ड आलू खा लेता हूं ताकि कम से कम कैलोरीज हो सके दिन में और सबसे ज्यादा पेट भरा हुआ लगे, तो सिर्फ आलू ही खाते रहता हूं मैं। लेकिन एक बार फिर से ये गलत अप्रोच होगा। थोड़ी बहुत चीजें ट्वीक करना इधर उधर सही रहता है, लेकिन ओवरऑल बॉडी को एक न्यूट्रिशियस डाइट की जरूरत होती है। आपका मकसद है यहां पर हेल्दी वेट लॉस, यानी आपको मसल लूज नहीं करनी, आपको अपनी हेल्थ लूज नहीं करनी, सिर्फ वजन लूज करना है। 6 अलग अलग प्रकार के एसेंशियल न्यूट्रिएंट्स हैं जिनकी जरूरत बॉडी को होती है ऑप्टिमल फंक्शन के लिए। प्रोटीन्स, कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स, फैट्स, विटामिन्स, मिनरल्स और पानी। तो जब आप
Now, this information is actually outdated, old information. You said 6. Scientists have later on decided that it's only 5 essential nutrients that you need to eat, because the carbohydrate thing is not essential anymore. Because why? I have already explained it to you. If you remember, I said our liver can produce glucose if necessary. That means for a person to have a healthy life, the person doesn't need a single grain of carbohydrate to go through his mouth. Based on from the fat and protein that your body has, the body can produce carbohydrate, body can produce glucose when necessary. That's why eating carbohydrate is not important anymore. It's not mandatory anymore. So obviously, Dhruv doesn't know that, and that's why he's talking about these things in this way, and making a fool out of himself, actually, to be honest. Sorry, Dhruv.
आप एक हेल्दी वेट लॉस डाइट पर होते हो, आपको प्रोटीन्स, विटामिन्स, मिनरल्स और वाटर की तो जरूरत होगी ही होगी। अब सवाल आता है फैट्स और कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स, इनका क्या? कई लोग अलग अलग प्रकार की लो फैट लो कार्ब डाइट सजेस्ट करते रहते हैं, तो पहले कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स की बात करते हैं।
Before talking about carbohydrates, let's talk about fat as well. Fat is an essential nutrient. We have to eat fat of different sorts. Now, obviously, whatever source of fat we eat, different sorts of fat always come together. Like people say that meat fat is, or animal fat is saturated fat. What they basically mean is there is more saturated fat in those fats, whereas they have got some monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids as well. And it's true for all sorts of food. So eating fat is very important. Without fat, because fat is actually virtually used in every single cell of our body. Fat is not only an energy source, it is a source of, it's a material to build our body as well. So protein and fat, they are essential for your structure, and carbohydrate can only do one thing: produce energy. And we don't need to eat carbohydrates because our liver can produce glucose if necessary.
कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स का, शॉर्ट्स में कार्ब्स कहा जाए, इनका क्या रिलेशन है वेट लॉस के साथ? कार्ब्स से निकलने वाली शुगर बॉडी के लिए एक इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्स है एनर्जी का।
No, not important. I mean, well, important in the sense that you need a little bit of carb in the body, true, but you don't need to eat that carb, okay, because your body can produce that carb.
अगर बॉडी उस एनर्जी को इमीडिएटली यूज नहीं करती तो कार्ब से आने वाली इस एनर्जी को ग्लाइकोजन में कन्वर्ट करके स्टोर कर दिया जाता है लिवर में और मसल्स में। अगर कोई इंसान उससे ज्यादा कार्ब्स खाता है जितनी उसकी बॉडी को जरूरत है, तो बॉडी उन कार्ब्स को कन्वर्ट कर देती है फैट सेल्स में और फैट के तौर पर स्टोर किया जाता है उससे।
So you understand that the extra carbohydrate that you are eating is actually adding to your weight because it's making you fat.
अगर इस एनर्जी को बाद में भी नहीं यूज किया गया तो ये एनर्जी फैट सेल्स के फॉर्म में बनी रहती है और इससे वजन बढ़ता है। तो ये सुनकर आपको लगेगा कि कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स को पूरी तरीके से अवॉइड करना चाहिए, लेकिन ये गलत कंक्लूजन होगा।
No, if you deny this concept, then you will be wrong instead of us thinking that avoiding carbohydrate is the right thing to do. If you don't agree with that, you are actually mistaken.
कीटो डाइट यानी लो कार्ब डाइट के जो फैंस हैं यहाँ पर उन्हें डिसअपॉइंट करने के लिए माफी चाहूंगा, लेकिन 2017 में एक मेटा एनालिसिस करी गई थी 32 कंट्रोल्ड फीडिंग स्टडीज की। इन्होंने प्रोटीन और कैलोरीज की मात्रा को सेम रखा और ये देखा कि हाई कार्ब डाइट बेटर है या फिर लो कार्ब डाइट। और इस रिसर्च ने पाया कि वेट लॉस में कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है, चाहे आप हाई कार्ब डाइट खाओ चाहे लो कार्ब डाइट खाओ। वेट लॉस
So this is interesting because we are disappointed. Being a low carb person, I'm quite disappointed at the level of your intelligence. You are not smart at all, actually. When you read something in the internet and there is a published research paper, and it says it's a meta-analysis, immediately you think it is actually going to give you the facts. No, that doesn't happen all the time. Depends on the studies it included in that meta-analysis. You need to actually look into the quality of those studies. If those studies are not strong enough, if those studies are not well controlled, if those studies didn't do the calculations as it should happen, then you will end up with the wrong result. The saying goes, if you pull together a lot of junk, you get a mountain of junk. So you need to be very cautious about this. Now, obviously, this particular meta-analysis said something like that, but then there are other studies that shows that this concept actually is not correct. So just running with one particular study meta-analysis and think, this is the truth. No. The easiest way to see whether it works for you is just do the experiment on yourself. You know, these experiments, they were conducted in a way, and it was not conducted on you. It was not conducted on you. So you don't know if the study outcome actually applies to you unless you try it and see how you get affected by that. So for people who were listening to Dhruv, you need to worry about that. Does it really work on you?
अल्टीमेटली सिर्फ कैलोरी डेफिसिट पर काम करता है, वही कैलोरी का जो बैंक बैलेंस मैंने शुरू में समझाया था।
Which was a stupid
2012 में
idea.
स्वीडन की यूनिवर्सिटी में एक और स्टडी करी गई थी ये कंपेयर करने के लिए कि लो फैट डाइट बेटर है या फिर लो कार्ब डाइट बेटर है। 2 साल तक इस स्टडी ने लोगों को मॉनिटर किया और सेम कंक्लूजन इस स्टडी का भी आया। वेट लॉस का इन चीजों से कुछ लेना देना नहीं है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ कैलोरीज यहां पर इंपॉर्टेंट है। अब यहां
No, that's completely wrong, and that's why some people there is one study of Sam Feltham is his name, is a British gentleman who actually tested this concept on himself. He overconsumed a lot of food from low carb idea and from high carb idea on 2 different times of the same year. And he showed that when he was on the low carb food, even after consuming a lot of extra calories, his weight didn't really increase significantly. Whereas when he consumed carbohydrates, his weight actually increased quite a lot. Dr. Jason Fung from Canada, he is basically an expert in this concept, and he explains it brilliantly. In one of his lectures, he used this experiment where in diabetic patients, what they did is they reduced their calorie intake by 300 calories per day. So based on their BMI, if the person's BMI was 2000, they were given 1700 calories to eat. And at the same time, they kept on increasing their insulin injection. So within 6 months, they went from 0 insulin to 100 unit of insulin every day. And at the same time, they were eating less calories. And at the end of the 6 months, all of them ended up heavier than when they started. So this basically proved the idea that insulin plays a very important role. As I said earlier, insulin reduces your metabolic rate. Insulin stops fat burning. Insulin keeps on storing fat when elevated. Insulin causes water retention. So all these things together will raise your weight rather than helping you lose weight, which Dhruv doesn't seem to understand.
यहाँ पर कुछ लोग हाई प्रोटीन डाइट पर भी चले जाते हैं वेट लूज करने के लिए, क्योंकि कुछ लोगों के मन में परसेप्शन होता है कि फैट्स या कार्ब्स खाएंगे तो वो हमारे फैट सेल्स में कन्वर्ट हो जाएंगे, बॉडी में वजन बढ़ेगा, लेकिन अगर प्रोटीन खाएंगे तो उससे सिर्फ मसल्स बढ़ेंगे। ये बात सच है कि प्रोटीन का यूजुअली इस्तेमाल किया जाता है मसल बिल्डिंग के लिए और मसल रिपेयरिंग के लिए।
Not only muscle, or our body is actually literally made with protein. Your bones, your nails, your hair, your teeth, everything is in the base of all these things is protein, and we then add other salts and minerals, stuff like those, to like the bones. They take calcium, but the most important bit is the protein. So protein is basically what you are. So protein is very important.
तो अगर आप ज्यादा वेट ट्रेनिंग करते हो, ज्यादा एक्सरसाइज करते हो, रेसलिंग करते हो, तो नेचुरली आपको ज्यादा प्रोटीन की जरूरत होगी। लेकिन अगर आप पूरे दिन सोफा पर बैठे रहते हो, हिलते नहीं हो, कोई एक्सरसाइज नहीं करते, तो आप जो एक्सेस प्रोटीन खा रहे हो वो भी फैट में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है।
Not exactly like that, because he's keeping one little thing here. If you are just eating protein on its own, obviously protein comes with the healthy proteins come with fat. So let's take the example of meat. If you eat meat which has got fat and you eat too much, now eating too much, that is going to be quite tricky, because as I said, your body has a regulator. Our body regulates how much protein we eat. So you cannot actually overdo it to a large extent. So, but even if you do on a particular day, so say for example you haven't exercised, but you had the same food as you had yesterday when you did exercise, so the extra protein that you have or had will get converted first to sugar. Our liver will convert that to sugar, and then try to store the sugar as glycogen, and try to feed the muscles with the sugar so that the muscles burn the sugar and produce energy. So that way it gets spent basically. But if you already have too much sugar in the body, then the extra sugar that was produced now will be converted again to fat, and then will get stored around the body as fat. So protein doesn't get converted to fat straight away. It goes through another step in the middle, and that step sometimes doesn't actually convert the whole extra protein to fat, because if you are glycogen depleted, if you are doing something, it gets spent. If your muscle have space for glucose, the body will feed you glucose.
अब कुछ लोग इस वीडियो को देखकर कहेंगे कि लेकिन मैंने तो लो कार्ब डाइट करी थी और मैंने वेट लूज होते हुए देखा, तो मेरे लिए तो काम करती है। लेकिन यहां मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि अगर आपकी बॉडी को सडनली कार्ब से डिप्राइव कर दिया जाता है तो आपकी बॉडी वाटर वेट लूज कर जाती है।
True, because the insulin is lowered, the insulin is not elevated anymore, so you lose water weight, and that's a good thing, right? No point of holding on to the extra weight water. If the body needs water, we need to keep that level of water, fair enough. But if there are extra water lying around, what's the point of that? So once the insulin goes down, the salt, which basically retains the water, is excreted from our body through urine. So the water, you lose weight through that, which is brilliant. Without exercise, you can lose weight.
ग्लाइकोजन स्टोर्स जो होते हैं वो हमारी बॉडी में वाटर रिटेन करने में मदद करते हैं। तो एक हफ्ते तक अगर आप कीटो डाइट पर गए तो आप 1-2 किलो वजन लूज कर जाओगे फॉर श्योर, और वो इसलिए होगा क्योंकि आपकी बॉडी का वाटर वेट निकल गया है। जैसे ही आप दोबारा से कार्ब्स खाने लगोगे वो
Now the problem is he's kind of like indicating that your glycogen storage will go down, and that's why you will lose water. And they did experiment and they found that's not how it works. Professor Jeff Volek from the Ohio State University, he conducted some studies, and they found that the body actually holds on to the glycogen aggressively. So even if you're on a ketogenic diet, low carb diet, even if you don't eat any carb at all, the muscle, your liver will try to keep the glycogen level constant. And if your glycogen is depleted a little bit, the body, your liver will produce sugar to fill it up, and it will use fat from your body to convert to sugar, or it will use extra protein to convert to sugar. So that's how you basically solve the problem.
वाटर वेट वापस आ जाएगा। डॉक्टर सारा
Yeah.
साइडलमैन और उनकी टीम ऑफ रिसर्चर्स ने 6 साल तक एक स्टडी करी थी 15,400 लोगों पर। इसे फेमस
15,400, 15,400 people. Whenever you do a study like that, that study is not a scientific study. That study was a statistical manipulation of some data. If you look into the particular study, you will find that these people were not really controlled in any way. Scientists, supposedly, I mean, the guys who were conducting the study, because they shouldn't be called scientists, to be honest, what they did is they went to these people and they asked them, what did you eat yesterday, last year, for the last month? How much this food or that food have you did you have in this particular time frame? And people came up with answers. Now, I'm sure you understand that if I ask you now, what did you eat the day before yesterday, and how much calorie that was, you will be absolutely like, oh, I don't know, I don't remember. So data from such studies are kind of like absolutely flawed, because people don't remember things accurately, and nothing is really controlled. So even though it's a big number, 15,400 people for 6 years, if you study or go through the study, you will probably find that these people were probably asked only once in these 6 years what they eat. So based on that answer, the guys who conducted the study, they assumed that their food habit was the same for this whole 6 years. Crazy. It is not science at all. There is no, I mean, they didn't conduct an experiment. They didn't control anything. People just lived their life, and they asked them questions, and whatever they could remember, they answered. And based on those answers, such a study was conducted.
लैंसेट पब्लिक हेल्थ जर्नल में पब्लिश किया गया था और
Yeah,
इसमें देखा गया उन लोगों को जो लो कार्ब डाइट पर हैं लेकिन ज्यादा एनिमल प्रोटीन खा रहे हैं। इस स्टडी ने पाया कि ये डाइट एक्चुअली में लाइफ स्पैन को कम कर सकती है। लो कार्ब डाइट को जब प्लांट प्रोटीन और फैट से रिप्लेस किया जाएगा तो वो वहां पर बेनिफिशियल पाएगा। इसकी बात वैसे मैंने वर्ल्ड्स ओल्डेस्ट ह्यूमन वाले वीडियो में भी करी थी कि लाइफ स्पैन को ज्यादा से ज्यादा एक्सटेंड करने के लिए क्या चीजें करी जानी चाहिए।
So probably you spread some more misinformation in that particular video. I need to review another video. My goodness. Dhruv, why can you not do some proper studies? I mean, crazy.
अच्छा, अब अगर लो कार्ब जाना ही है तो कितना लो कार्ब जाना चाहिए? इस स्टडी ने देखा कि अगर 40% से कम टोटल एनर्जी कार्ब से आ रही है या फिर 70% से ज्यादा टोटल एनर्जी कार्ब से आ रही है, दोनों में ही हेल्थ को एक हायर रिस्क है।
Now, this study actually didn't control anything. So, whenever people claimed that their carbohydrate consumption is less than 40%, or whenever people claimed that their consumption is more than 70%, they didn't care what else they did, and they come up with these numbers, which is not scientific. Now, there were other studies conducted on people. Professor Eric Westman from Duke University, he has conducted small study on 50 people, and reduced their carbohydrate intake to less than 20 grams per day. And they found the body is responding completely differently. So less than 20 grams of carbohydrate per day is the definition of, well, some people disagree with that definition. That should be the best way of actually getting into ketosis. So if we talk about ketogenic diet, there are quite a few different variations. This less than 20 gram a day of carbohydrate seems to be the one that works best and easiest to do. You can look up Professor Eric Westman's studies. Those were controlled studies. They knew exactly what these people were eating. And based on that, they found if you reduce the carbohydrate consumption to less than 10% of their calorie intake, less than 5% of their calorie intake, the body behaves completely differently, which is not the same as this epidemiological rubbish.
मतलब ये हुआ कि जो चीज हमें स्कूल में सिखाई जाती थी वो बहुत जरूरी है यहाँ पर
No,
एक बैलेंस्ड डाइट
no.
हेल्दी वेट लॉस
That is a crazy concept. This balanced diet idea is completely false. I mean, if you think about anything, if you go to your doctor because you've got a heart problem, does he actually give all the medications that were invented on heart problems based on that idea? Okay, I'll give you a little bit of this medicine, a little bit of that medicine. I'll make it a balanced medicine so that your heart is saved. No. And if anybody tries to do that, you will go like, are you mad or something? That's because different medicines have got different effects. And based on your particular problem, you pick the right medicine. And the same is true for food. The idea of a balanced diet that only comes from people who don't really understand what's going on. But if you know how these foods affect your body, what sort of hormonal effect of these foods are, you don't say stupid things like this.
लॉस करते वक्त आपको कार्ब्स को पूरी तरीके से हटाने की जरूरत नहीं है अपनी डाइट से बल्कि हेल्दी कार्ब्स खाने की जरूरत है
If you remove carbs from your diet and eat healthy fat, lot more compared to how you used to eat in the past, because you basically carb is a source of energy. So if you reduce the carb from your diet, you need to add in source of energy to balance that out. So you need to eat more fat because fat is going to give you the energy. So if you eat more fat and reduce the carb altogether and eat the appropriate amount of protein, you will find yourself losing weight and you will feel really strong. You will have a brilliant health. You can try it. Just try it for, say, 3 months. Just try it for 3 months. You need to drink a lot of water and you need to add salt with your water because, as I explained, if your insulin is low, the body is getting rid of salt very rapidly. So you need to replenish the salt every day. So 2 to 3 teaspoonful of salt per day seems to be the right amount of salt for an healthy human being. If you're on a low carb diet, you need to consume a little bit probably more because your body is going to get rid of the extra salt.
Carbohydrates is the food for the brain. अगर आप कार्ब बंद करेंगे तो आपका दिमाग खराब हो सकता है.
This is completely false. The brain can run on other fuel like ketones. So if you're running on fat and your sugar level is on the baseline, your body will basically, or your brain will basically start running on ketones. And they did the experiment and they found that if the sugar level in your blood and ketone level in your blood is the same, equal amount of blood, sugar and ketone, your body spends or uses ketone for 75% of its energy need, and 25% comes from the sugar. So this is actually a stupid saying that you need sugar, you need to eat sugar to keep your brain functioning. That's just a myth.
Aggression, depression, nervousness, anxiety, trepidation, ये सब इसके हिस्से हैं.
हेल्दी कार्ब्स
Nah.
क्या होते हैं जिन्हें बॉडी
Dr. George Cahill, he conducted some studies, and Dr. Drenick, he conducted some studies where they had medical students who were really overweight and they kept them without food for about 21 days. So their sugar level was like really low obviously in the normal range because our liver can produce sugar. You cannot actually bring it down any further. At the same time, because they didn't eat anything for 21 days other than water and salt, their ketone level was quite elevated. The body was running on ketone at that time. And what they did is injected insulin to these guys. So the sugar level actually dropped like really low, 0.5 millimole it went down to. And those guys were still functioning perfectly fine. Whereas For a normal person like you and me, if our sugar level goes down to like 3 millimole, we will go through the problems of hypoglycemia. We may even go into coma. But if your ketone levels are elevated and your body knows how to use ketone, then you actually don't need that much sugar. Sugar level goes down to 0.5 millimole, which is unbelievable, but you are functioning perfectly fine and there was no damage in their cognitive ability or their performance in any sense.
बॉडी धीरे से एब्जॉर्व करती है, जिनसे ब्लड शुगर लेवल ज्यादा ऊपर नीचे नहीं होता और जो बॉडी को एक स्टेडी सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी देते हैं। इसके एग्जांपल हुए होल ग्रेन्स, फ्रूट्स और स्टार्ची वेजिटेबल्स। और अब आते हैं हम दोस्तों फैट्स पर। फैट सुनकर ऐसा लगेगा कि फैट खाने से फैट हो जाओगे, लेकिन ये फैट न्यूट्रिएंट जो होता है ये भी एक एसेंशियल न्यूट्रिएंट है और इसकी जरूरत भी बॉडी को होती है। कई सारे विटामिन जैसे कि विटामिन ए, विटामिन डी, विटामिन ई, विटामिन के, ये सारे फैट सॉल्युबल विटामिन हैं, तो फैट्स की जरूरत होती है इन विटामिन को ऑब्जॉर्व करने के लिए बॉडी में। इसके
Fat is essential. You have to eat fat. It's not the same for carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is not essential nutrient. You need to remember that.
के अलावा फैट्स की जरूरत होती है हार्मोनल बैलेंस के लिए, एनर्जी स्टोर करने के लिए और हमारे वाइटल ऑर्गन्स को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए। इंसानों का ब्रेन भी 60% फैट से बना है और यही एडवाइस पॉपुलर न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट पूजा मखीजा ने भी दिया था। ये जो ट्रेंड है लो फैट डाइट खाने का, इसके खिलाफ इन्होंने बोला था। इन्होंने कहा कि फैट्स आपको फैट नहीं बनाते, बल्कि ज्यादा फैट खाना और गलत प्रकार का फैट खाना आपको फैट बनाता है।
Eating too much fat, that's not possible because that is controlled by your hormonal system. But eating the wrong kind of fat, yeah, that is a problem.
तो इसीलिए एक हेल्दी वेट लॉस डाइट बैलेंस डाइट होती है जिसमें कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स, प्रोटीन्स और फैट्स तीनों मौजूद हों।
No, carbohydrate is not part of this balanced diet. Even if you go talk about balanced diet, carbohydrate is not essential. So what's the point of having carbohydrates? If you like carbohydrate, you can have it. But if you're overweight, then that's what probably contributing to your weight. So you need to get rid of that.
अगला सवाल ये कि कितना परसेंटेज किसका होना चाहिए, सही हेल्दी प्रपोर्शन क्या है। इसको लेकर एक रेंज एग्जिस्ट करती है जिसे कहा जाता है एक्सेप्टेबल मैक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन रेंजेस, AMDR।
This is some people's opinion. This was not really tested in human beings and came up as test result. This was basically some scientists, some really knowledgeable people, they sat together and they came up with, okay, what should we tell people? Let's say this much, let's say that much. Seems like that should be okay. But it was, this AMDR was not based on any experiment really. So be a little bit suspicious about
इसके अनुसार करीब 45 to 65% आपकी डेली कैलोरीज कार्बोहाइड्रेट से आनी चाहिए।
You will obviously be really overweight if you stick to that.
20 to 35% के बीच कैलोरीज आपकी फैट से आनी चाहिए और 10 to 35% कैलोरीज आपकी प्रोटीन से आनी चाहिए।
No, it's the wrong way around. If you increase your fat, healthy fat, animal fat, ghee, butter, these sort of things, not the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated crap, then and replace the carbohydrate, you will do better.
इस रेंज में एग्जैक्टली कौन सी परसेंटेज पे आपको होना चाहिए, ये आपकी पर्सनल लाइफस्टाइल चॉइसेस पर डिपेंड करता है। आपकी एज क्या है, आप कितनी मसल गेन करना चाह रहे हैं, आप डायबिटिक हैं, किस तरीके का खाना आप प्रेफर करते हैं, तो इन चीजों को लेकर आप एक प्रोफेशनल डाइटिशियन से कंसल्ट कर सकते हैं और अपना एक कस्टमाइज्ड डाइट प्लान बनाना एक अच्छा आइडिया होगा। अगर आपको नहीं करना किसी डाइटिशियन को कंसल्ट, तो एक आम इंसान के लिए जिसे कोई और हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम्स नहीं हो रही हैं, मोटे मोटे तौर पर इस रेंज में रहना अच्छा रहेगा। तो अगला सवाल अब आप पूछोगे, यार मोटे मोटे तौर पर इस रेंज में कैसे रहा जाए, क्या खाया जाए क्या नहीं खाया जाए। आइए पॉइंट बाय पॉइंट इस चीज को भी क्लियर करते हैं। क्या आपको खाना चाहिए? आपको होल ग्रेन्स खाने चाहिए, कॉम्प्लेक्स कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स। आटे और चावल के अलावा आपको अलग अलग प्रकार के ग्रेन्स खाने चाहिए, जैसे कि मक्की, ओट्स, बार्ले, रागी, बकवीट, कुट्टू, अमरांथ जिसे चौलाई भी कहा जाता है, या बाजरा। इनसे बनी रोटी खाइए या फिर इन्हें दलिए में खाइए। इसके अलावा आपको खाने चाहिए लेग्यूम्स, जैसे कि
all these grains and seeds, they usually contain a ton of toxin, because if you look at them and if you think about it, these are ways for the plant to spread their, I mean, these are basically the offsprings of the different kind of plants. and nobody wants their offspring to be eaten by somebody else. So they actually they put a ton of toxin in the grains, in these seeds to protect them. And as human beings, we do try to detoxify them using different methods like fermentation and things like those, or cooking. But we cannot completely get rid of these toxins, and that can become another problem towards your fat gain. So Professor Robert Lustig, he explains that first we used to think it's calorie in, calorie out, and that turned out to be false. And then the concept of the hormone kicked in, that it's not only the calories, you need to have the right hormone to be overweight. So if the hormones are off, then you will end up gaining weight. But then they found that even the hormone is not giving us the whole picture. And they realized that there are obesogens, as they call. There are chemicals, there are toxins all around us in our food in different forms. Microplastic is an example, that once we consume them, they go into our body and acts as obesogens. They try to promote weight gaining. So then what happens is the two people of the same kind of body structure, same kind of BMR and everything kind of same, they live in two different places. They've got two different environment, even though they're eating the same calories and the same composition of food. Based on the environment and the chemicals that are available in that environment, their weight becomes different. One finds it easy to lose weight, the other finds it very difficult to lose weight. These sort of things happen. So the concept is not only calories, that's completely wrong, but calories and hormone, the idea that I was talking about so far, that is better. But to understand the whole picture, you have to take into these obesogens into account as well.
कि चना या फिर लेंटिल्स, अलग अलग प्रकार की दाल, ये सब अच्छा सोर्स है कॉम्प्लेक्स कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स का, और इनमें
we don't need that complex carbohydrate, so what's the point of eating those? And these food digestion is quite tricky. Our body doesn't seem to absorb the protein that are available in these foods, and our body seems to struggle to use the stuff that comes with this food in our body. So, say for example, let me use the example of carrot. We say carrot is very good because it's a source of vitamin A. Interestingly, carrot doesn't contain any vitamin A. It contains beta carotene. So what happens is the beta carotene, once we ingest it, it gets converted to vitamin A. True. But how much? Very little. And then some people, because of their some genetic changes, they don't have the enzyme to convert beta carotene to vitamin A, retinol. So for those people, doesn't matter how much beta carotene they eat, how much spinach or how much carrots they eat, they are not going to get vitamin A because their body cannot produce or convert the beta carotene into vitamin A. For them, having meat is very important, or fish is very important.
में फाइबर और प्रोटीन भी होता है. फिर आप फोकस कीजिए बाकी और हेल्दी खाने पर, जैसे कि फल और सब्जियां.
These fruits are full of fructose sugar, which is a terrible thing for human body. It is not used in any biochemical reaction in our body, and all it does is causes problems one after another. So it's not a good idea to consume fruits. They say that it has got a ton of fiber. Yeah, what is a fiber? Some people say it's so good. No, fiber is a very well recognized anti-nutrient. Yes, you heard me right. It is an anti-nutrient. So something that is an anti-nutrient, recognized as anti-nutrient, how can that be really beneficial for us? There is no way.
राजमा, छोले, soya chunks, chana sattu.
Stop this one breakfast mistake today to see abs by March. Abs are made in the kitchen. Plain water or
Fruits, berries, dry fruits, मूंगफली, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, spices, अंडे.
Well, I guess I'm going to stop it here because it is getting boring actually. Well, he kind of like talked about the theoretical aspects of all these concepts that he was trying to promote. this first part of this video, which I've actually gone through. So, for the sake of time, I think let's stop it here. Basically, what I'd say to Dhruv is, mate, you have got it completely wrong. If you want to test it, just do a test on yourself. Just live on fish, meat, and fat for 3 months and see how you feel, how your weight gets affected, and then you will probably come back and just delete this video and make another one apologizing because you confused a ton of people. 14 million views you had on this particular video. It's terrible. You confused all these people with basically rubbish. You haven't actually thought well enough about these topics. You haven't done your research properly. And I feel sorry for you, actually, to be honest. Anyway, hope anybody else, if you were watching, hope you find it useful. And yeah, if you try the low carb idea, because carb is what causes the insulin. I mean, cause you to raise elevated insulin. That's the word I was looking for. Causes elevated insulin, which basically stores energy in the form of fat in your body. So, if your food style, if your diet is one where you don't eat carbohydrates, your insulin is always staying low. That means you're not going to store or gain weight. So yeah, with that, I'll end it here. Thank you so much for staying with me for such a long time. But hopefully, we will be benefited from the discussion that the review that I had so far. If there are anything that you think is completely wrong, please feel free to leave a comment and let me know about that. I'll see you in my next video, hopefully. Okay, take care. Bye bye. Hmm?